Hi, my name is Michelle, and I am an advisor on the SRA Hub. Today's webinar will be on career fair etiquette. So if you guys are college students and you guys have a career fair on campus that's coming up, this is a great webinar to get you guys prepared, to kind of talk about what makes you stand out, and we'll also help you guys craft an elevator pitch. So, and if you're not on a college campus, if you're a high school student, this is a great way to prepare, because I know a lot of organizations and communities have summer internship fairs for high school students as well. So hopefully everyone will get a lot out of it, and we'll get started. Okay. So if you guys have any questions at any time throughout the webinar, feel free to chat it in the chat box, and I'll get to them at the very end. Cool. So career fairs. It's a really awesome event. If you're on a college campus, usually it takes place in a really big room, and there'll be different tables and booths of different companies. So it's a really great way to learn about companies, explore different careers that are out there, to find a job or internship. And if anything, if you don't find anything you like, you'll always be able to kind of build your professional network. So yeah, it's a great opportunity. It's something that I encourage everyone to check out, whether or not you're looking for a job or internship. I think it's just a really great way to see what's out there and see what might be a good fit for you when you are looking for internships. So these are some ways to prepare. We always say to print at least 10 to 12 copies of your resume to bring. Usually you want to, keep it in a nice folder. If you have like a really cool SpongeBob folder that you like, or a Lisa Frank one, maybe leave those at home for the career fair. You want to bring something nice that's more professional, because a lot of times that's, their first impression of you, and you want it to be a good one. You want to research the companies that will be there. So a lot of times when you guys are signing up for career fairs on your school website, they'll have a list of all the companies that will be there. So that's a good way for you to prepare, to look at what companies are out there, which ones you're interested in. That way you can think of like 1 or 2 questions that you can ask them when you do visit their booth. So let me show you guys an example. So I pulled, let's say Berkeley, right? So most of the time you can find out if your school is having a career fair by looking at, you could even Google like your school and then say career fair. You can also check out the career center at your school, and they'll have a list of when those are. So this is just an example from UC Berkeley. So this is from the fall, and this is for the spring semester. So looks like they have a few. Sometimes they're just general career fairs. Sometimes they're just for summer jobs. Sometimes they're for specific fields like engineering or business. So definitely check them out right now when it's towards the beginning of the semester, so you know when to calendar and when to register for the career fairs at your school. So sometimes they don't tell you right off the bat what companies will be there. But if you'll see, let's say on Berkeley's website right here, where I just highlighted, it says approximately 3 weeks before the date of the fair, they'll have like a directory of all the different attendees and companies that would be there. And that's when you can start looking up the companies, researching, and coming up with meaningful questions to ask. Here's an example from SF State. So they also divided it by semester, or if you go to a quarter school, your school might divide it up by quarters. So usually there's a few. The way SF State has it, they have a part-time job fair, just general spring career fair. They have, so they don't do it so much by field, it seems like UC Berkeley does, but you should be able to see what companies are there ahead of time. And if you're not sure, you can't find it online, just go into your career center and ask them. All right. And you also want to bring a pen and paper so that you can take notes. So, I know nowadays a lot of people take pictures of notes or like lectures. You can just take a picture of what's projected, but that's not a really good not a very good etiquette to have at a career fair, so make sure to bring pencil and paper so you can jot down notes. You want to dress appropriately. Usually we would say business casual, so maybe some slacks or khakis or a button-up shirt or a nice blouse, because usually that is their first impression of you, and you want to make sure it's a good one. You want them to, or you want to feel comfortable and feel like yourself, so make sure the clothes that you're wearing are comfortable. And always smile and have a positive attitude. It really goes a long way because, these career fairs can be hours and hours long. So the people who are there representing their companies are just sitting there. So, sometimes it can get a little tiring for them. So when you show up with a smile and a positive attitude, it can really make an impression. All right, these are some ways to stand out. And I'm just going to keep it real. You want to visit each booth by yourself. So I know if you're a little nervous, you might want to have a friend, but our recommendation is to visit each booth by yourself. Don't follow a friend. Don't let a friend follow you. That's really your time to get to know the companies you're interested in and for them to get to know you. You don't want them to necessarily, the time you spent with them be cut in half because you have a buddy with you. If you go on your own, all that time and attention is just solely on you. You always want to introduce yourself. So, give a nice firm handshake, say your full name. Like I would say, hi, my name is Michelle Chang. I'm a fourth year at, SF State, and I'm really interested in looking for internships in the business field. So as part of that, you want to have an elevator pitch, and we'll go over how to make one later on in the webinar. And you want to ask thoughtful questions. So, you don't want to ask them silly questions like, oh, what does your company do? If you really don't know anything about the company and you're just kind of walking around, then maybe you can ask, or maybe look through the brochures on their table before you ask. But if it's a company that you're targeting that you've already done your research for, that's not a question you want to ask. So you want to ask meaningful questions. So maybe questions you wouldn't be able to find online, so you can ask that person. I see that you guys are offering internships over the summer. What is the day-to-day like for the interns in your department? So one, they'll see that you're really interested, and two, you'll get an answer that will help you decide if you want to, join the company and pursue an internship in the field. And after you meet with them, make sure you say thank you. You can even shake their hands again. Those are great ways to stand out. All right, so when you're actually at the career fair, this is what you can do. First, for students who don't know what a career fair is, so like I said, it's usually in a really big room, different companies at different tables. If you've been to a college fair before, it's pretty similar. So what you do is visit different booths of different company. You want to mingle with the employers, ask meaningful questions, like I said earlier. You want to avoid the questions that, like I said, you can find the answers online. You want to avoid questions about salary. You want to avoid staying at the booth too long. And I know if you have, let's say you're really interested in working at Genentech and you really want to show them you're interested, maybe some students think the right thing to do would be to hang out at the booth for like 30 minutes. Not really what we would recommend. Maybe, get in there, introduce yourself, give your elevator pitch, get their contact information so you can network, and then move on. One, it's a little awkward for them if you're just standing by the booth for like 30 minutes. And two, there's a lot of different companies at career fairs and you want to make the most out of your time. So just, even though you have that one dream company, look at other options. So get to know other companies that are there. So the goal of career fairs is not to be hired on the spot. And I know a lot of students get disappointed when they go to a career fair and they're like, oh, I didn't end up with a job, or I didn't get, hired for this position, even though I talked about it and how much I'm interested in. That's not really the purpose of career fairs. The main purpose is to get to know what's out there, to make connections with people at companies that you are interested in. And the saying how they say it's about who you know. I like to take it a step up and say it's about who you know, but it's also about who knows you. So when you're at different career fairs, networking and sending them maybe a LinkedIn connection later on, that's more and more people who know you and that you can, in the future can reach out to if you find another job that you're interested in way down the line. So you want to be professional when you're at career fairs. It is basically the impression that they get from you is what they'll think, what kind of worker you'll be or what kind of employer you'll be. So make sure to be polite, shake hands. When you're talking to them, you want to nod when they're, explaining maybe what their day-to-day looks like. You want to make eye contact with them. You don't want to look the other direction when they're talking to you. Like I said, smiling goes a long way. You want to dress appropriately. Don't be on your phone, and definitely don't chew gum. Maybe you can chew gum 30 minutes before the career fair, but then spit it out. It just looks really bad and unprofessional. So we talked about an elevator pitch. For people who don't know what it is, it's basically a short summary of what your background is in, what you're interested in pursuing, what your strengths are. But we'll go through the activity together. So all of you guys on this webinar, I want you guys to think of a dream company that you guys want to work for. So everyone think about it. Pick one in mind. Okay. Now imagine you're in an elevator with the CEO of that company. Okay. And you guys are going from the lobby all the way to the 60th floor of that building. So you have the entire elevator ride to persuade that person why he or she should hire you. So usually an elevator pitch should be about 30 seconds to a minute long. And, because it's not a lot of time, you want to be able to give as much information about yourself in this short time. So we'll go over how to do that. So keep that dream company in your head. And then as we go through the different steps, you can kind of start creating or noting your own answers to these questions. So step number 1 to making an elevator pitch. And just for the record, you can use the elevator pitch outside of an elevator. So in case you meet them at a career fair, for example, you have 30 to 60 minutes to kind of give them a summary of who you are and what you're about. So some students think it can only be used in an elevator, but that's not true. Okay, step number 1, think about what makes you awesome. So think about who you are, what you can offer, what you're interested in. Talk about your major or your intended major if you haven't declared, clubs you're involved in at school, maybe some of your favorite classes, describe your accomplishments, maybe 1 or 2 skills that you're really, really strong in. So an example would be, hi, my name is Michelle. I'm a 4th year at Sonoma State, and I'm really interested in gaining more experience in the education field. My major is psychology with the minor in education. Some of the clubs and organizations I'm involved in include being a mentor at the local elementary school, being a tutor for high school students in the next city over, and yada, yada, yada. So basically it's similar to the answer you would give in an interview where they ask you, tell me about yourself. Okay, once you got that, you want to pick out a strength. So I know for a lot of students, they don't like to brag, or it's really hard for them to think of a strength because, we were taught to maybe not brag about what we're good at, but it's really important to include that in your elevator pitch. So when you're thinking about your strength, you want to maybe think about feedback you've gotten from your teacher or your manager or even a friend or family member. Ask them what you're good at, any good qualities that they like about you in terms of how it'll make you a better employee for that specific field. Basically, the goal of this is to give the employer a clear understanding of what you value and basically what you can contribute, right? Because they want to hire people who aren't just in their field. Let's say you're a business major and you want to apply for the business internship. They just need more than someone who's a business major. They want to see how you can contribute to their company. And they want to make sure that, you know, what your values are and what you're good at are aligned with theirs. Step 3, you want to name your goal. So you want to think about how can the person you're talking to help you. You want to think about, is your goal to get a job, a summer internship? If you're graduating, you probably want to look for a long-term job. Or maybe you're not really looking for a job and you're just looking to build your professional network. So think about that and keep that in mind as you craft your elevator pitch and make it clear. So these are some examples that we have. I'm hoping to find a summer job in blank, blank, blank. Can I set up an informational interview with you? Is that your goal, is to, you know, in those 30 seconds to a minute is just to get you an informational interview so that you can have a longer time to chat with them? Is your goal to maybe send them your resume so that they can forward it to maybe a recruiter at their company? So think about your goal. So these are the things that your elevator pitch or speech should include. So after you've drafted it using those 3 steps, you want to make sure, you know, do I have an introduction? Did I introduce myself? Did I give a firm handshake? Or if you're at a career fair, maybe you give them your resume. Did you tell them why you're there and what sort of employment you seek? Or if it's not employment, but, you know, internship, whatever it is, make sure to cover what your objective is. Make sure to summarize your education, experience, and strength. And have a closing. You want to reiterate your interest and thank the employer. So once you've crafted your elevator pitch and you make sure you had all these things, and if you're missing one, make sure to include that. If you're good to go, then I would practice in the mirror, record yourself, do it with a friend or a family, because it'll make it come out more naturally the more you practice. All right, so here's more checklist. You guys can kind of read it in front of your screen. So these you want to do all in 60 seconds, but you want to make sure you also have a 30-second version of your, you know, longer elevator pitch in case you only have 30 seconds with that person. Right, so you want to make sure you state who you are, what kind of work you're doing, what makes you unique. Say your name, say your major, what makes you stand out. Have a slogan or tagline maybe, or even a memory hook. Yeah, so these are the things you guys can check. We actually got this from the UC Santa Barbara website, so you guys can also check on your own college campuses, career center websites. They generally have a checklist for what you should bring, how you should prepare for a career fair at your school. So sometimes that includes bringing your ID, because certain career fairs are only limited to students at that school. So look through the different checklists to make sure you have everything. So this is an example. So hi, my name is Sam Ward. I'm a computer science major with an art minor, and I'm really excited about combining these 2 interests. I've actually developed an interactive educational program to teach children how to draw. I'd love the chance to explore entry-level job opportunities with dynamic creative software companies in the Houston area. So you get a good sense of who he is, or her, who they are, what kind of major they're pursuing, what their goal is, right? They're looking for an entry-level job. They want to combine computer science and art. You also learn what they've accomplished, right? They created an interactive educational program. So this is, you know, only 3 sentences, but it gives that person a lot of information about Sam. So once you've, you know, introduced yourself, given the elevator pitch, asked your questions, you want to follow up with your contacts. So they may have a business card. Take the business card, whether or not you think you're interested. It's just good etiquette and shows that you're interested. Take notes. Send a thank you email right after the fair. So if it happens during the day, you want to make sure you send out that email or that LinkedIn request to connect that evening so that it's fresh in their head. You want to remind them of how you guys met. So we actually have a template on the SRA Hub to help you with this. I can show you guys what that looks like. Here it is. It's an email template. We also have a template if you want to connect with someone on LinkedIn. And I believe that's it. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm going to launch the post survey while people think of questions. So as people are taking the poll, I want to show you guys one more resource in case you guys want more information about how to make an elevator pitch. I know I went over that really quickly, but I'll show you guys right here. So if you guys go on the Hub and search for elevator pitch in the resource tab, search. We have a worksheet that can help you draft it. We also have an animated video that walks you through the different steps. So don't be afraid to use those resources. They're actually really helpful. And it doesn't look like we have any questions. All right. So if you do end up thinking of any questions, feel free to email us on the SRA Hub. And I hope you guys have a great night. Bye.